reflections, ghosts in the cold. So come burn down my escape. I wanna feel it, come drag me into the void. Let my circuits decay. I'm sorry but it's too late. You never
Oh, hello. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day for those strange people who like to say that. Welcome to the Wednesday midweek daily show. Or not daily, but, you know, guys, English is my first language. You have to cut me some slack. I'm not very good at speaking. I know I try and do the streaming thing, but at the end of the day, I'm just a peasant trying to live his best life. And English was never my strong suit. That being said, welcome to the show. Today we're going to be diving back into Project Motor Racing. We have a little bit of momentum behind PMR right now, so we've been kind of sort of sticking to it rather than jumping around like a normal sort of design to streaming. Because we do have typically now, and me in particular, I have 3 games that I like to personally play regularly, which is PMR, Race Room, and AMS2. 2 of the 3 of those are PC only, so a lot of my friends are on PS5. So, due to that, PMR has a sort of shine to the podium, or I should say to first place on the podium, because of crossplay. However, the game, as we know, does need some work. The other 2 games are far more polished, but they're also far older and much farther, I told you the English language is hard, much further along in their development cycle than PMR. So in that regard, I do like to cut PMR a little bit of slack. That being said, today we're going to jump into it and we're going to do some exploring. We're going to kind of go over some of the graphics, some of the visuals that I think could be improved on, and just some general ideas that I could have for, say, the developers to maybe make some tweaks to things. And then we're also going to do some comparisons on different cars and stuff like that. We were doing this on Monday, but we got kind of sidetracked and cut short when we jumped into some open lobby hosting, which isn't what I like to do during the daytime stream. I like to save that for the evening streams, where it's a bit more casual and laid back, and I get to sort of, you know, race with the community and stuff like that. Whereas during the day, I like to focus on the more information style. What do we got? We got a sub. We got a sub. Who we got? Peter Pumpkin Eater. Thank you for the sub. I appreciate that, sir. So anyway, I'm gonna stop, jibber jabber and doing all that stuff, and I'm just gonna jump right into the game. We're gonna get to it. So how's everybody doing on this Wednesday morning? Well, depending on where you are. It's 11 a.m. where I'm at, so it's barely the morning here. But how's everybody doing? What's going on, PD3G? All right. 5 p.m. there. Where are you at? If you don't mind me asking. You're obviously not in the States. Because I'm on the later side. I'm on the East Coast of the States. Or North America, if you will. So we're going to jump into first things first. We're going to get into because part of I think the visual sort of degradation of this game is looking through windshields. So I want to keep this a bit more open, and by that I mean we're going to be getting into an LMP car and driving that around casually. That way you guys get to see sort of some of the graphics that I'm referring to, and you're not looking through, say, a filtered window. So first we're going to start on, let's go Spa. Spa's a very popular track, and it's very easy to compare to other sims. We'll jump into a practice session. We don't need to worry about any other nonsense. All right, confirm that. We'll do summertime. Make the foliage the most green it can be. You're in Amsterdam. Interesting. Well, glad to have you. Curious. I'm always wondering how the YouTube algorithm's working. Did you search for Project Motor Racing, or did this stream just pop up for you? Or are you subscribed? If you're not subscribed, I'm just saying. Also, folks, if you don't mind liking the stream, help push this out there. You know, I hate saying it, I hate reminding people, because you all know how it works, but it's more of a reminder thing. Ciao! I would have to... Here, you know what? Can I copy that text? Let me see if I can. No, not easily, no. I'm sorry, sir. Melaverde, I'm sure I butchered that name. I'm just going to say ciao back to you, and I don't know what the rest of your question is. I apologize. Vehicle setup. What do we got for tires? We just got hards for the LMP car. We're going to max out rear wing, even though we're not really doing any racing. We're doing some more casual driving. That's why we're in practice right now. Okay, so first things first. Let's drive around. I'm going to take my face off the screen for a minute here. Just, I know it's distracting and very beautiful and all, but you gotta stall the car. Oh, I know why. Let me turn that back on. I'm lazy. I don't want to have to push my clutch in. Auto clutch. Force on. Auto pit limiter. Go force that on too. That's just both of those are for the sake of laziness. I don't want to have to do basic things, you know. Okay. Drive. Greetings from Germany. Man, you guys are all over the place, huh? That's fantastic. All right. Let's try this again. Let me turn the music down just a little bit. All right. All right, so what I want to do is I want to look at a lot of the graphics. I want to look at some of the scenery, the visuals, check things out, see how things are going here. So, let's drive over here. And also, too, for the sake of just moving that, let's turn this off. Oh, wrong way. HUD setup. Let's turn off the DigiDash. Oh, this is something I wanted to mention for the devs out there. If any of you guys do see this, and I will say this on a more 1v1 level, if you can bind, maybe it's in here and I've just missed it, but I have looked for it, a button to disable the HUD, rather than having to do it this way and turn off everything here. Just give me the option to essentially click bind a button that just sort of turns off everything on display here, you know? That way I can have a clean screen. Just popping in from the UK. Is there anybody in the States that's watching, or is it all overseas? I mean, either way, you're all welcome. But anyway, let's look at this grass quick, okay? The grass is moving. It's its own geo. Let's look at the concrete, or the pavement, or whatever you want to call it, the asphalt, the fence line, the fence. When I tell you that everything is actually here visually, it is. The graphics in this game are actually very, very, very good. They're very in-depth. The heat haze coming off the exhaust right there. And then also, too, look what the grass does when you drive over it. Now, this is likely because it's from Farming Sim, Giants Engine. Just casually driving around. Now, one thing that definitely needs a visual sort of update. What gear am I in here? That's reverse. Alright. Oh, pit limiter on, that's why. Alright. So, shadow pop-in. That is... Now, this is going to be more of a PC breakdown here, because I'm playing on PC. Fair warning. And a lot of these things that I'm going to be referring to can really only be fixed on PC. Console is a bit more, you get what you get because there's only so much power to play with. But for example, what I want you to do is look at the trees. You'll see a lot of the shadow pop in. It's very aggressive and it's very close to me. And I have everything maxed out right now in the settings. What I would like to see from an update here at some point, now it's not a big deal, I've already told the devs, as much as I want to be, oh, me, gimme me, I want new stuff, focus on console stuff first. Because I do believe console is the lesser of the two experiences right now. However, the shadow pop-in right now is something that I think needs to load further away, especially for, you know, the max setting window. You know, you can always dial things back in the settings, so if you're worried about taxing the frame rate too much, so be it, but give us the option to render it further out, because it really is very close to you that the shadows render in 100%. See on the tree line right there, how the shadows popped in? Pay attention to the trees as I drive around. That's where you'll see it the most. It's really noticeable on the Nordschleife because it's a lot of straights with surrounding tree lines. See how the shadows are popping in? That's something that, while again it has no effect on the actual gameplay and no real effect on anything other than your eyes, for me, it's an eyesore. See how it all pops in? And again, I have max settings right now. There's nothing I can do to make that further away. Now, here's the thing. This isn't mostly a PMR thing. This is a lot of Sims do this. They have a very egregious sort of pop-in. And it can kind of be a little bit distracting, especially since we're going for, you know, at the end of the day, simulators are supposed to be about realism and immersion. Well, for me, maybe I'm definitely pickier than some. Shadow pop-in and stuff like that is a bit of a... It detracts my eyes away from what I'm doing, and I start noticing it. Now, I can ignore it for the sake of having a good time. That's not a problem. But it is something that I would like to see addressed in time, not an immediate thing. I'm not worried about that like that. It is what it is there. There's a lot more important things that need to get fixed in this game. But from a visual standpoint on PC, where the sky is sort of the limit on horsepower, I want to be able to render that so far away that I just can't see it pop in ever. See, because it's not actually the geo. The trees aren't popping in, it's just shadows. This monitor constantly gives me issues. Trees popping in is a curse from the Giants engine because it has a circle of death to save on resources. Yeah, but the thing is that using the Giants engine or not, it should still be adjustable. You know, even if, like I said, at the cost of giving up frames, I will give up frames to be able to make the shadow pop in further away. And I'm sure there's a way to program it. See, like you can see it right there. The shadows in the grass. The grass almost changes color as I get closer to it. I will say these LMP cars are... If you haven't really driven the LMP cars, you're missing out. There's a lot of fun to be had in these things. But I really recommend driving them with an H pattern. Because cars that have H patterns in this game benefit from using an H pattern from a performance standpoint. They shift faster. Any news on VR support? Nope, it is on the, no updated news, I should say. It's on their list of things they plan on doing in their short-term roadmap. Short-term roadmap, I believe, is inside of 3 months. And that they posted that about, maybe about a month ago, they posted their short-term roadmap. So, you know, you're looking at maybe within 2 months you'll see some VR support. But either way, while I know a lot of people are into VR, I don't think this game is... that should be their priority. Truly, I don't. Now, mind you, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who doesn't VR, so maybe that's just me being selfish. But I think the biggest thing they need to focus on is the interconnect between game players. So, for example, console players, PC players, just the general multiplayer experience. Now, I have heard some inklings that there will be... the next coming patch, whenever it shows up, is really going to be heavily focused on the multiplayer experience. Now, what that means, I don't know. I don't have any more details. I'm just going based off of the speculation about things I've heard. But I do think it's the most important thing that needs to be resolved in this right now, regardless of visual bugs, regardless of quality of life bugs and single-player stuff. I know the game was marketed as single-player, but in my opinion, the online experience needs to be quite a bit more polished. Where I spend most of my time playing this game is in online lobbies with people. The only stuff I really do the single players for is practice. And let's face it, as much as some people... Watch the through the grass. See the grass right there? How it sort of like shadow popped in? Or reshaded, I should say, as I got closer to it. That's something I noticed really specifically on Spa. I got distracted by the grass and I forgot where I was going with that. It's a good idea, Steve. I like that. But this is what I was saying too about, this is a quality of life thing that I would really like to see, is the ability to cycle through your HUD on the fly, like bind it to a button. AMS2 does it. I think Race Room does it really, really well, but it's a little too specific, meaning each individual thing you can bind a button, which is nice to have, but it can be... I want more so like a button, where like AMS2 does it, where you just bind the HUD cycle sort of like display, the entire HUD, so that it'll do minimalist HUD, full HUD and zero HUD on one button that I just click it and it rotates through. Because there are times where I want nothing on my screen and I want to be immersed in what I'm doing. And then there are times where I want some feedback, and there are times where I need to see everything, you know? And this doesn't have, at least I can't find it anyway. It could be here and maybe I'm just blind, but as of right now, this is what you have to do. You would essentially go to settings. Maybe not. You would go to cockpit setup. Okay, cockpit setup. So pause the game, go to cockpit setup, go to HUD setup, and then you have to turn things individually like this on. So I have to turn my Digi Dash on. There's a lot of information on that dash that I like to see. I also don't know if you can turn off just the tire. I know it says wheel inputs display, but that's not it. Penalties, virtual mirror, the delta, radar, map. You can fully customize the HUD. That's not a problem. I've already done a lot of that. I've moved. The tires are here normally. The Digi Dash is over here normally. And the radar is here normally. I've put the radar on the dash because I like it here better. I like it to feel like the radar is part of the car. And not just a random display popping up in front of my eyes. In the Digi Dash, I like to overlay to where a dash would actually be rather than it be off to the side. It's a lot easier for my eyes to glance down than it is to look off to the side. Now, some people who might have a smaller panel, that's not a big deal. I'm on an 85-inch panel, so although my FOV is relatively the same regardless of panel because I've intentionally kept it that way, so that's kind of a moot point. But I don't mind I like the layout system. It's very easy. The snap to grid enabling makes it really easy to set up. I would just like a button bind that allows you to cycle through the HUD completely to turn it off without having to pause the game, go in here, and do all this. Save and exit. And now I have my dash back. So just to remove that, that's what it takes, you know? So let's see. It sort of is in FarmSim. It's done in one of the config files in the FarmSim folder. In my documents, my folder. But I haven't looked into PMR if the same command line. Gotcha. It's always possible that it could be potentially done in modding as well later on. Let's see. Steve says, name the top 5 things that should be fixed. You have played game way more than me. Okay. So, number 1. This is my number 1 thing, my recommendation. The multiplayer interconnect. The multiplayer experience playing between people, both casually, ranked, whatever, it needs to be stronger. And by stronger meaning, it could be the same feature set, it just needs to be reliable. The amount of times people get kicked out of lobbies, they crash to desktop when trying to enter into lobbies, that is the biggest momentum killer. And it's what frustrates people the most. When they want to play the game and they get bounced out of a server, now they got to wait for that person to either start the lobby again or wait till they finish their race and hope to get in the next one. And it even happens with the host sometimes, you know. Now, if you guys were paying attention to my last couple streams, I was having issues with the game randomly black screening and my wheel going nuts. That comes down to one of the folders that seems to get corrupted in this game, and I don't know how or why it does it, but it does seem to happen. I've had to delete it twice now. Both times I deleted it were for completely separate issues. They watch the grass. Oh, never mind. Yep, see right there. Watch the grass. That might be the circle of death as you were referring to. But the way it pops in, or sorry, the grass got me again. The interconnect needs to 100% be, in my opinion, the priority above all things. And to add like a, you know, that be 1A and then a subline 1B would be for a quality of life, having a chat room, having a chat box inside the lobbies to be able to communicate to people. That's something that's been heavily requested, and I can definitely see that. Now, I don't know this, mind you. I am just speculating and guessing. But if I had to guess, I feel like that will be in the next patch. A chat box for people, because that has been overly requested by people, and the devs have acknowledged its existence. They're not ignoring it. So if the next patch primarily focuses on those two things, I think the online multiplayer experience is going to be exponentially better. Exponentially better. Which is where this game is really going to shine. Thank you, track limit warning, for bringing me to option or to issue number 2 that needs to be fixed and addressed. Track limits. There are track limits in this game that absolutely need... Some of them are fine. The countdown timer is overly punishing, and I don't think it actually works correctly. I could be wrong. Maybe I just don't understand it. But it's the slowdown timer where you have to slow down for a set amount of time. You have to almost stop in the road for that timer to start counting down. And on this particular track, for example, I did a ranked race that I was very much looking forward to. It was Group C on Spa. For me, that's one of my top races. Group C in general is my favorite class of cars to drive. But on Spa, where the Group C cars can kind of flex some of their muscle, great race. And I don't even think... I don't remember where I qualified. It wasn't very deep because I tend to not really care about qualifying much. If I was super, very tactical with this game and everybody else I was playing with was, I would care more about qualifying because it would matter a lot more at the end result. But for example, I was near the very back of the grid in the ranked race, and I quickly got to second place. And I want to say that the only other person that was decent at the Group C driving in the lobby was the first place guy that I caught up to. Now, I'm over here behind this guy, working on an overtake, cleanly, of course, not trying to bump him off the road, because let's face it, if you don't want to follow etiquette, you have plenty of opportunities to just bump someone out of the way and pass them. So you're trying to have some good racing, and we were having some good sort of racing. I never was able to get in front of him, but I was right there on him the whole time. It was completely ruined by track limits to the point where I ended up, I don't want to say rage quitting, but I was just like, all right, there's kind of no point to continue this now. I'm so far out of this race. And after about 3/4 of the way through the race, because I want to say it was a 10-lapper, or it might have been a half-hour race. I can't remember what the actual. It was a relatively longer race for PMR, and out of nowhere, I drift slightly out right here. Now this is obviously much more than slightly out, but either way, it was comparable to this turn where I drifted out, and I got a slowdown penalty. And the slowdown penalty is supposed to be, okay, you have to slow down, either under a set speed or whatever, although it doesn't show the set speed anymore. And then it counts the timer. It says slow down for X amount of time. I found myself that I have to slow down so far and so aggressively that I'm now out of that race. But I'm like, okay, let's keep going now. I have to hopefully try and catch this guy. Maybe I can, chop him down a little bit on laps each time and catch back up to him. Or maybe he'll make a mistake. So, during the same lap, I'm coming around the final set of turns on Spa, right here. And my rear tire slightly kisses right here. Slightly kisses the track limit right there. I get another slowdown penalty, and at this point, the race is over now. Because that slowdown penalty, I want to say, adds at least 10 seconds to your, overall track time per. Now, having a dogfight with a talented driver, and now I'm 20 seconds behind a minimum, I'm sorry, but unless he makes a catastrophic mistake, the race is over. And I was passed by a lot of other people on the grid, too. So I now have them to worry about and try and get in front. So, track limits. Zolder is another. So, Spa, Zolder, and Monza, I think, are the 3 worst track limits. And Zolder might even be the most egregious. Because I think the track limits are just straight up wrong. If you follow the track line, like the recommended line that the game provides, if you follow that line to a T, you will get track limit warnings and penalties. So, track limits definitely need to be adjusted. And either softened on the penalties or overall just sort of reevaluated how they implement them. Because there are times where track limits feel like they don't do anything for punishment, and there are times where they feel like they are way too punishing. There's not a lot of consistency on the track limits. To go to a penalties, I would say instead of calling the second thing being track limits, I would call it the penalty system, which 2A would be track limits, 2B would be contact with other player penalty system, which I don't think there is any of in this game. I don't think there is any penalty for any level of contact between players or the AI. But I can tell you that that's probably not in there because that is a very hard system to get right. I don't know of many games that get contact, like especially like, for example, Gran Turismo 7. People are still constantly complaining about contact, where someone contacts someone and bumps them to the track limit, and the person who caused the incident gets 0 penalty whatsoever, and the person that got bumped doing nothing wrong gets a penalty. So that's going to be very hard to do. I don't even know how to give the proper advice for that. I just know that there needs to be something in there to punish aggressive players, or players that are, you know, either intentionally ramming or just being careless and punishing people who are actually trying. There needs to be some, even if it's an incident system where, like, if it's as basic as the contacting player gets 2 incident points and the person that got hit gets 1 incident point, you know? Either way, there needs to be something to punish the bad player more than the good player. And right now, there isn't anything like that. So that would be problem 2. You know, 2A and 2B. And I think those are the absolute biggest problems. By a landslide, no questions asked. Those features alone would completely change the online racing dynamic. So, issues 1 and 2 very much trump issues 3 through 5, I would say, if we're going down a top 5 list. So I would say number 3 would probably be the ranked play. I would say there needs to be more weekly variety in the ranked play. I saw a lot of complaints about people getting the same races over the course of the same set of weeks, and they get kind of exhausting. I think, like, for example, as soon as I saw the Group C race, I didn't even hesitate. It wasn't even a question what I wanted to do. I would like to be able to pop into ranked play, because I'm not much of a ranked player anyway, so grain of salt there. However, if I did care about ranked play more and my ranking, I would want to get ranked more in the cars that I like to drive than the cars I don't like to drive. I don't want to be forced to drive cars that I don't care. Like, for example, GTE. Some people like them, some people don't like them. I'm not a fan of GTE. It's just a lesser, in my opinion, GT3 setup. The GT3s work better. The GTEs need a bit more refining in this game, in my opinion. But overall, I don't want to be forced to drive cars that I don't want to drive and have to wait X amount of time. I would personally like to see one particular class of car per week. So if you, let's just say you jump into a ranked race, or into ranked, as soon as you see the list of, you have, you know, GT3, GT4, GTE, GT1, GT, Group C, Group 5, one ranked race per class of cars. You know, I don't know how difficult that would be for the devs, but that would be ideally what I would like to see. That way, every week, you have a new race to jump into with your favorite kind of car. You shouldn't be forced into driving a car or waiting until the car you want to drive comes around. Because originally in the marketing, they really pushed the whole, you could drive any car you want and not worry about driving the other cars for your ranking. Well, that might be true, but if you have to wait 3 weeks to a month to get into the car that you want to drive, that kind of pulls you out of the caring about the rank system. You know, because now I'm forced to get ranked on cars that I don't care about driving. Whereas the cars I do care about driving, you know, I gotta wait a month. Me personally, I like Group C the best. I like a lot of the older cars the best. So I don't want to have to sit there and race the same Group GT3 cars that I do in every other sim that exists. This game shines in its uniqueness of the old cars. Utilize that, you know? So call that problem number 3, would be, again, the multiplayer experience. Problem number 4, I would say, is the inconsistency between classes of cars. Some classes work, some classes don't work. LMDH obviously needs some refining. I think primarily the physics of them, I think honestly, are pretty good. It's the tires, in my opinion. Now, whether you factor tires into physics, that's up to you. But specifically, it feels like the tires just need more grip. They've come a long way. They were actually terrible on release day. They're actually not too bad to drive right now, but you really have to try. They're really a try-hard type of car. And I really feel like the try-harding on the LMDH stuff comes down to using energy and really just planning your race more so than driving the car. Because when I get into an LMDH or any form of hypercar, I expect me, the driver, to be the weak link, not the tires. I don't want to be able to take a turn faster in a GT3 car than I can in an LMDH car, because now you're pulling me out of the realism side of things, and that because I know for a fact a GT3 car does not handle better than a hypercar. It does not take turns at a lower rate of speed than, say, a GT3 car. I should not have more grip or trust the grip a lot more at the same speed with a GT3 car over a hypercar. So I think the LMDHs definitely need to be refined, at least in the tire department. A lot of the cars have a lift-off oversteer issue in defaults form. Now, some guys have dialed the cars in and made them better, but for the most part, I really feel like there is a lift-off oversteer issue that really needs to be addressed on a lot of the cars, because a lot of cars don't have it, but a lot of cars do have it, and it seems very inconsistent, because we're talking about a class of cars that all roughly have a very similar BOP by default, and yet some cars are just way easier to drive and have no real downside to them. You know, if you're going to have a car in a class that's harder to drive, there needs to be a reason that it's harder to drive. Does it benefit more in the straight? You know, what is the reasoning for it? You can't just make a car be substantially slower or harder to drive in the turns and then get into the straights and it's the exact same car it was before, you know, or as the other car, I mean. Because then everybody's just going to drive the easier cars to drive and no one's going to drive the hard cars, you know, because there's no benefit to them. All right, I'm going to get out of this car for now. I'm also going to turn on the TC and ABS just to give me the option to play around. I do like that. I got to give credit where it's due. One thing I really like about the assists in this game is, yes, it forces them on, but it doesn't force you to use them. And by that I mean, so this car here, the LMP car, does not have ABS or TC. When I click this from authentic to forced on, it gives me the ability to use it, but I can turn the dial and turn it right back off manually. So me personally, I like to just leave these settings on. And then that way I can run, if I'm in a lobby where I can't use them, they're off. And if I have the choice of, well, maybe I'm not in much of a try-hard mood tonight and I'm in a custom lobby where they're not being forced off, I'll run the TC and the ABS on a little bit and I can drive a little more leisurely. Or if I want to authenticate, I can literally just turn the dials. What is the difference between turning the dials on here, on the main menu, or then turning them on your wheel? I'd rather have everything on my wheel, so I never have to go into the menu ever again. So for me personally, this stuff stays like this. It allows me to just, when I want, on the wheel, make my adjustments, you know? So anyway, let's turn those back on. Let's change up to... All right, we talked about the LMDH cars quite a bit in the last stream, so I don't want to jump back onto them. I am going to do a little bit of Group C comparisons today, because I have seen this a lot lately, and it's weird. This hasn't been talked about for a while, but for some reason, there's been a lot of complaints lately about Group C. So there might be issues with Group C, but it's not fundamentally with the car. It might be with wheelbases in certain systems, like on a certain console or something like that. But I can tell you that fundamentally the way that these cars drive is perfect. And I really don't want the devs to change the way these cars drive to fix a problem that isn't at the source of the cars themselves. So, well, I want to circle back to the Group C stuff in a bit. I want to drive some more cars. CLK, one of my favorite cars, an example of this class. A lot of these cars have lift-off oversteer issues. I don't remember if I drove them, so real quick, I'll just jump in the CLK, and I'll show you what I mean. and get away from Spa. Let's go to the Nordschleife. I'm really practicing saying my E at the end of it, by the way. It's like Porsche and Porsche. There is a right way to say it, and I'm trying to remind myself to do that. Let's go to Autumn, because I like the look of Autumn. Purely a visual thing. I also do think the frame rate in this game is slightly better when you run it in winter or autumn, because the foliage isn't as flushed out, because again, it's half of the foliage is dead. Exactly, like these cars are hard to drive, but like people watch me drive them and like, oh, I'm not having that same experience. Well, the question is, how much of it is an actual core problem, and how much of it is actually you just don't know how to drive the cars? Because they are harder cars to drive. That's the whole point of them. Look at it like this. They are substantially older than modern cars. They are not algorithms on wheels like GT3 cars or hypercars. Because you have to understand, there's a lot of, even though there's no ABS on a hypercar, there is a boatload of electronics assisting you. Group C cars. H pattern, lots of horsepower, put a lot of tire on all four corners, and used the best suspension and chassis technology they could of their time, which was really dated. Now, has anybody ever had a high-powered street car just in a straight line with full grip? What does that car do? That car dances. It sways. It moves. Every car does this. The more power you make, and if you keep the grip... Now, when you spin, you don't feel it because you're not putting the power down. But when you actually put the power down, all of a sudden, the car starts doing things that are pretty wild. And that's just in a straight line, let alone turning. So for the sake of trying to mitigate some of the lift-off oversteer, we're going to put some downforce into it. I have found almost... Everybody always talks about the coast ramp angle and stuff like that. I found this not doing a whole lot for me. In fact, it's actually minimized anyway. The clutches, you can turn them down so they don't bite as hard, but I have yet to have any of that truly, really help. A Twingo. I don't even know what a Twingo is. Can I add a pedal cam to my live stream? Honestly, probably not. I'm probably going to add a second wheel cam, though. I don't do anything special with my pedals. In fact, all my pedals would do is generate a massive amount of confusion because I have my clutch in between my brake and my gas. I just don't really use the clutch very often. I use the clutch on here. Renault Twingo. Gotcha. How many people are left at PMR, aka the development team? I have no idea, but I don't think there's as little as people think there are. I could be wrong. I don't know. Bottom line is I don't have the answer for that. Let's see, like, right... Oh, don't hit a wall. This is also a no TC and ABS car, and it's on right now for the sake of why not? I can turn it off at will. I know it's not accurate. It's not lore accurate. Like right there. That ass just wants to come around once it starts. Now, you could make the argument the tires are cold, and that would be accurate. But they're not that cold. They're 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not that cold. Because I can tell you that the Group C cars, which are harder to drive and have more power, don't have this problem. So fundamentally speaking, this car should actually handle better. Sounds horrible. There's nothing horrible sounding about this car. You're entitled to your opinion, even if it's a bad one, though. This car sounds fantastic. I'm getting some stutters today, I noticed. Could be shaders rebuilding, but whoop, 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 whoop. This is also a car that I'll compare to AMS2, by the way. Tom TRLI, thank you for the sub. I appreciate it. You know, there is something I have to do quick that I think I did forget to do on my computer. Turn my fans up. Let me see. I don't know if that creates any stuttering, but all right. Real quick, I'm gonna use a little boy's room, make a pit stop. All right. I think the main problem about base game setups is that post ramp is tuned way up when most cars are easy to control with it set easiest to control with it set to 30. Well, this car is set to 30 by default. This is a default setup outside of adding some rear downforce. And rear downforce is like one of those things where I've just found no real reason to never max it out. Unless you're racing on like Daytona or something where you spend a lot of time mile-an-houring the car, I found that I just always increase my rear wing to maximum. It just allows me to be so much more aggressive on these little back and forth turns, you know? Just my opinion, though. My driving style is also a bit more aggressive. Well, this car, you really get to see the frame gen doing its thing. But that's a frame gen thing. That's not this so much the game thing. There's nothing that can really be done about that. I'm actually curious. Let me see what that looks like. Now, this could put... By the way, I don't ever recommend doing this, what I'm about to do. Changing graphics while in the game. A lot of sims don't even allow you to for the reason that it could cause a crash. but I am going to turn frame gen off, and I'm curious to see what if the visuals that I was just seeing goes away. Most of it does. There's still a little bit of it there. Yeah, it looks a lot better. But this view I find especially, you can really see the side effects of frame gen. But I can also see now some of the frame droppage. It's not bad, but my eyes are very, very, very perceptive to frame rate, or frame time, I should say. So, for example, my screen is 144. So if I drop below 144 FPS, I can absolutely see it. If I stay locked at 144 the whole time, it looks baby smooth. The second the frame times go up and I start to see the visuals, it gets noticeable. But I also I'm a proponent of frame gen, even though it's not popular amongst the community. So let's go turn frame gen back on. Again, don't recommend doing this. If the game crashes, don't be surprised. Use all 4 of them. I'm going to have 6 soon. This view, I see nothing except it's just smoother. Because a big problem for me, too, is that I like to run frame gen when I stream. Because when I stream, I lose about 20% of my frames. So if I'm getting 150 FPS off stream, I'm getting about 120 when I stream. See the shadow line? The shadow line that's following me? It's so hard for me to ignore that. If they could just make that render further out, it would be so much... I'll lose frames, I don't care. It's really just about adding it on a slider, you know? If you can get it to render further out. It's not like it has to be forced that way for the guys that don't have the power to do it. But I have a 5090. I have more than enough GPU to render that further out. Let me render it further out, you know? So what I want to do quick, since I'm in this car, is I'm going to switch over to AMS2, and I want to do this exact same race in that car. For a sort of a proper comparison. And then I'm going to do that with Group C. Whoops! See right there? That lift-off oversteer? You could argue I was going too fast, but at the same time, there are cars that are harder to drive that are faster that don't do it. Alright, now let's jump into AMS2 quick. I'm going to do that exact same race, or exact same lap, I should say, for comparison. AMS2 is the closest game to compare this to. I am going to be adding at some point a wheel cam specifically. That's probably going to be up over my head, facing down at the wheel. or maybe off to the side facing the wheel, something like that. We'll figure that out. The only reason I want to go above and facing down is so you don't see the screen in front of me and have that sort of like screw up the lighting of the camera trying to focus too much on the TV. All right, so test day. Let's jump in. Same car. Same track. Now I am going to turn off stability control. I'm going to leave on ABS and TC for the sake of doing an honest comparison, but I am going to turn off stability control because stability control adds an unusual amount of assist in this game. Like it really makes it so like you just cannot bin the car. But turn up the downforce. This one does allow you to, no, it actually doesn't allow you to turn up any front. Okay. I do have the choice of putting softs on this one. I actually don't think I could on the other car. Now I don't remember. I didn't check. I'm pretty sure you can't. It's just hards. But either way, now we're in AMS2. Try the exact same thing. And see how this one drives. And this is what I mean, by the way, about the HUD. So watch. No HUD. See how I'm cycling? Right now there's no HUD here. And now I'm cycling through. Now I have some of my presets here. And now I have less presets, and I just have the actual tires and the gear indicator. And now I have my tires in detail. And now I have nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that part's kind of nice. That's what I mean by giving me a binding to cycle through my HUD. Yeah, this game actually just hit a stutter too, and that's interesting. Neither one of these games stutter like that, so that tells me something's up with the computer at the moment. It's not bad, but every once in a while I see a hitch, and I know these games don't have hitches. It could be the stream. Not sure. Either way, I'm not too worried about it. It's not really affecting anything. But notice though how the back is staying planted. It's not doing any lift-off oversteer. No matter what I do. Right here's usually a good test of that. It's going to fourth gear, let go, nothing. The ass stays planted. Now I don't know which one is more accurate. Truly, I've never driven this car and I never will drive this car. But as far as more fun to drive, the AMS version of it is more fun to drive simply because I'm not worried nearly as much about lift-off oversteer. And I believe more that when I do go into a corner too hard or something along those lines and I do end up spinning out, that it's more of a driving problem than a car problem. And if every car in PMR had lift-off oversteer, then I could say, well, it's just the way that the physics are in the game. But it's only some. This car doesn't do it at all in this. And this is with, again, the stability control turned off. If I turn stability control on, this car will just not spin out. It can't happen. Right now, I actually have to do a little bit of driving, but I'm still doing less driving than I was in PMR, right? So if they could find a way to sort of address some of that lift-off oversteer problem that plague a lot of... See, right there, I got in the throttle a little too soon, but I was able to just let out of it and get back in it. And the thing is that I don't feel like I have any more grip than in PMR. It's not like, oh, yeah, I'm on soft tires now, or something like that. So you know what? For the sake of honest comparison, let's put it on hard tires. Because I don't know what I was on for tires in PMR, but I assume it was hards. So let's go hard tires, and let's see if all of a sudden now I have lift-off oversteer problems. Tires are going to be cold again, so I'll have to warm them back up. Truthfully, I don't feel like much difference. If anything, I got more understeer now than anything kind of oversteer, you know? Yeah, there's no doubt that this car is substantially easier to drive in AMS2 than it is in PMR. And it's simply because of the lift-off oversteer. That is it. That is the only thing that's changed it from a driving dynamic. But as far as audio goes, I like the audio of PMR in this car a lot better. Like a lot better. This car sounds like almost like a generic Mercedes race car in this, which is fine. It sounds good. It's not a bad sound. But the CLK in PMR sounds a lot better. Which one is more accurate? I'd really have to do my research on that. But I'm going to go ahead and say PMR's is more accurate because the sound team is really good with PMR. Yeah, I am getting some interesting stutters. I have to wonder if the Windows update that installed yesterday is doing this. Whenever they install a security update, you just never know what you're going to get. And nothing has changed on this since playing last night, other than that. Yeah, there's... Can you guys see the driving difference? What I'm talking about with the lift-off oversteer? It's just not here in this car. Because they drive very similar. Both cars feel very planted, which is the deceiving part about PMR. You'll be going around a turn like that, rolling off the throttle a little bit, and next thing you know, the ass is in front of you. Whereas here, it stays planted. Which again, never driven one, so I wouldn't know. But it does feel more problematic than it is supposed to. Well, I totally missed that. But then when you get in the Group C cars, all of a sudden, they're easier to drive in PMR than they are in this. Group C is really hard to drive in this game. Oh, missed the gear. Anyway, you get the idea. So let me get out of this. Let me see if I can figure out the stuttering problem first. See if there's anything in the background that's running that is a small service that was added or something. Because this game absolutely never, ever, ever, ever stutters. Task manager. Let's see if we have anything running that's robbing OBS. Nope. Google, which is obviously Chrome, Streamlabs, OBS, Steam, all the things that I would expect to be running. Problem with stutters is like, you never know what creates a stutter. There are so many things. Yes, I did update to the latest one, and that was what you just saw right here. Close Steam down. Open it back up. Not that that's going to do anything. It never does. Let's see. Because I'm a minimalist when it comes to computers. I have nothing running in the background. I am a massive proponent on making your computer as efficient as possible. No bloatware, nothing along those lines. Steve says, for me with future improvements, I could see this being my go-to racing game. The potential is there. So this is my hot take, honest opinion about the game and its potential. There are lots of games with lots of potential, right? This game absolutely has its share of possible potential. I am fairly confident that this game will do well in the long term. For the simple reason that never in my life have I been this communicative towards devs, and devs communicated back. They're involved with the community, you know? Now, obviously, they have some level of responsibility to what they released versus what they said it was going to be. But, I mean, you just don't see that. So, say what you want about the CEO, what you want about Straight4 in general. At the end of the day, everything I have seen from the devs themselves says this is their baby. They want it to be good. They want people to like it. They're into it. They're committed. That's good enough for me, honestly. As long as every patch improves the game, fixes problems that the community's complaining about, and continues to do that in an upward spiral, what more can you ask for? If you don't like the game itself at its core, if you can't see any potential for this game at its core, then you just don't like the style of racing. That's that, and it's never going to... Whether this game is perfectly dialed in or not, you might never like this game because it's just not your style. You know, if you're a diehard LMU player and that's what you like as a game, you might never like PMR. Maybe you will, but you might never like it. As they originally advertised, this game is a love letter to the generations of racing. This is not modern day only current diehard racing. The sounds in LMU are what I would call okay. They're just okay. They're not bad. They're not great. They're okay. Which is why I never understand why people... I really think there's like just like a hate mob that goes around. Because nothing about this game says the audio is bad. So when people talk about the audio in this game being bad, but then they don't talk about games like LMU and stuff, it's like I don't understand. There's a disconnect here. If you don't like the sound of this game, that's fine, but how can you not... Or how can you like the sound of games like LMU? There's no character. For me, sound comes from, like, character and uniqueness. Not, yeah, every car sounds kind of the same with a little bit of a tone change, you know? Now, that's, again, like you, I'm not slighting LMU. The game's good at what it's good at. But don't say something like this has bad audio, but then not say anything about LMU. If you think LMU has bad audio, and you also think this has bad audio, then that's fine. But don't try and tell me the number 5 is a smaller number than the number 4. Because that's what you'd be doing by saying this game has bad audio, but then LMU doesn't have bad audio. You lose all credibility in your audio. Like, the random comment in here sounds horrible. Like, thanks for your opinion, even if it's a terrible one. All right, now we're going to do something different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in the Sauber. And we're going to run what we just did with the CLK. We're going to run the Sauber around one lap of the Nordschleife. And then we're going to run the Sauber and one lap of the Nordschleife in AMS2. And we're going to compare what we think is better sounding, better looking, better driving. I'm going to let you guys... I'm going to give my opinion as I'm driving. But I also want you guys to really, really try and pay attention. Now, I might make mistakes in my driving. There's no doubt I'm an average driver. So I might crash in both of them. But try and judge based off what you see. And again, I'm going to use the bathroom because G Fuel is ridiculous. I swear, G Fuel is a more of a diuretic than coffee. Stuff, it goes through you as fast as gravity can pull it. All right. And yes, we're doing this with the Sauber because Group C is my go-to race cars. You know, if it were up to me, like look, okay, right there. Look at the power and look at the weight. Can we do a solid here, right? Since my face being on screen will cover it. If you look, right? 820 horsepower, 680 foot-pounds, sub 2,000 pounds. Okay? Why? And it has no assist. Now, I'm going to put the assist on for the sake of just driving the car a little bit, right? But this car has no electronic technological advancements. This is raw power, raw chassis, good luck. 820 horsepower, 1,995 pounds. Why are we comparing this car to this? 300 less horsepower and 1,000 pounds heavier, or 900 pounds heavier. And this car has a bunch of electronic assists. If you are used to driving a GT3 car, how can you expect this car to drive the same in terms of control? If you think this car is just going to be as easy to drive as a GT3 car because it's a race car, come on now. Come on now. Anyway. Love the reviews and opinions. Running LMU now and interested in PMR, but was looking at PMR for PS5. I will say I was talking to one of the devs last night, and they're doing what I recommended. They focus on console before PC right now because that's where their biggest user base is. And the thing is that the reality is if they right now console is sort of their lifeline, and if they get the game to thrive on console, and it's successful on console, and a lot of people are playing it, and the interconnect is good, people on PC will also play it, regardless of what you might think. If a game is successful, people are going to play it no matter what. Me Too is a big part of human rationale. People want to be involved in the new. So where I was going that basically was, right now I think the experience is better on PC, but only if you have a higher end PC. If you have a lower end PC, I will always recommend play on console for all games, period. But it does seem like when I spoke to the dev, they were already, like, what I recommended about them focusing on console, that's already in there. Like, I'm not breaking any news to them, you know? They're already on top of that. That's their game plan here. Is they're obviously going to be supporting and patching both, but there's more of a focus on getting the consoles right now because that's where everybody's playing the game, you know? I'm obviously playing it on PC, but I also have it on PS5 as well. If I want to travel, want to go somewhere, I can boot it up on my PS5, you know? But that being said, though, the experience is a lot better on a high-end PC versus a PS5, as it should be. It's part of the ping of PC. But anyway, I recommend getting it. I can't promise you're going to have a fantastic experience right off the rip, but I can tell you that the experience is only going to get better as the game ages. So if you're willing to buy into an eventual really good experience and you're bored with, say, LMU, I recommend giving it a solid try. The sound in LMU is not terrific, but no worse than, say, iRacing. Yeah, they're both very dry. They're there. The MX-5, I will say, in iRacing, I think is the best sounding MX-5. I'll give them that credit. Of all the sounds the MX-5s make in these games, I think the one in iRacing is at least the best sound. Can't say how accurate it is or not. It really depends on the spec sheet of the car, because horsepower affects the audio of a car. It'd be the exact same engine with the exact same exhaust, and if that engine makes more power, it's going to sound different. Anyway, so let's jump into this. Everything apples to apples. So this is going to be Group C, Sauber C9 test. We're going to be running a single lap around the Nordschleife, seeing how the car drives, comparing the graphics, comparing just generally everything. And then we're going to do this same exact test inside of AMS2. And the thing I really want you to pay attention to is the way the cars drive. Because there's been a lot of, like, interesting conversation around Group C and PMR right now, how people don't think they drive right. And I am on the opposite side of things. I actually think they drive phenomenal. I think it's the best iteration of Group C that I've seen in any sim. Second to that would be AMS2. So I'm essentially comparing what I think is the number one and the number two driving experiences of Group C. We're starting with PMR, then we're going to go over to AMS2. Vehicle setup. We're just going to add some rear downforce to assist us. That's it. We are going to be running them in a non-authentic state, so they're going to have ABS and TC on for the sake of just comparing the overall physics of the car. We will be using a round wheel. We will be using an H-pattern shifter. Now listen to the audio, look at the visuals, compare everything as best you can. And if your complaint about these cars is that they're a lot harder to drive than GT3s and modern day prototypes, yeah, they are. The same way a 90s F1 car making 1,200 horsepower is harder to drive than a modern day F1 car. I hate to break it to you guys, but cars have gotten easier to drive in the modern era by like a lot. Careful on the downshift. Don't downshift too high in RPM. You'll lock the rear tires up. I don't know if I'm talking to you or me, but either way, someone's got to listen. Drift off track. That's okay. Took that a little too high speed. Oops. Turned in a little too soon. Very, very slow carousel. Just trying to be cautious. I also recommend being in first gear in that carousel in this car, because this car has a very, very, very high mile per hour per gear. Now, as far as graphics go, the one thing I think that does PMR a disservice, and it is realistic, but I wish they wouldn't do it, and that is the windshield visuals. It looks like an old, like, micro-scratched up Lexan window, which is probably accurate to the fact that it is a race car and is an old prototype, but it really does mute a lot of the visuals when you're in the cockpit view. And a lot of other sims don't have any filter on their windshield. So it looks very, you know, more vibrant. Images pop a little bit better. This, to me, is the ultimate race. Group C on the Nordschleife. When we get into the straight, I'll show you what I mean about the visuals with the window. Now, if we watch right now through the windshield versus without the windshield. The windshield mutes a lot of the color palette. That's why I like racing in autumn on this track. Oh, missed that turn. That's fine. Going fast enough, you just drive over the grass. This is a farming sim engine after all. All right. So that was PMR. Now we're going to jump over to AMS2. The tire chirp audio is crazy intrusive. I like it. Still getting stutters, and I don't know why. If I wasn't getting them in AMS2, I would say it's the game. But I'm getting them in AMS2 as well, so something is happening on the computer that's causing a random... And it's not consistent. It's every once in a while. It's a pretty good frame spike. Or frame time spike, because it's a stutter. And the only thing that's changed since I played last night was a single Windows security update. And you never know what you're going to get with those. Never know. I really, really, really wish you could game on Linux. Power settings. What are you referring to right now? Also, too, for the sake of keeping this car under control, I am going to turn this back on. Because in AMS2, this car is way harder to drive. All right, so test day. Actually, I guess we could do a race with no AI. Single race. No AI. Wow, I'm blind. So in this, car makes even more power. 850 horsepower, 743 foot-pounds. That's actually 100 more foot-pounds of torque than the previous one. It is about 200 pounds heavier, though, so I guess that's somewhat of a wash. So we're going to do Nordschleife. Oh, Windows power settings. It should be on. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's still. Here, I'll look right now. High performance. I am going to check real quick and see. I doubt there is, but if there's a MD drivers. Chipset. M5. Nope. Yeah, these cars definitely benefit from an H pattern. For sure. Without a doubt. Alright, for the hell of it, I closed out the Google Chrome tab. I doubt that that's it, but I mean, Google Chrome updates like crazy as well, so... Yeah, the chipset, stuff like that, all that stuff is exactly the same. The only thing that updated was the security update. And, of course, Google Chrome updates every 100 times a day, so... all right, so... One lap. Same scenario. summertime, noon, blah, blah, blah. All right, now we're in AMS2. Do the exact same thing. Again, compare everything. Visuals, audio, but primarily the driving. Because that has been the complaint about Group C and PMR. They don't believe the driving is accurate in these. So, max out rear downforce. There's only one. And we max out front downforce, which only adds 1 degree each. So, now this game is going to appear a lot clearer, because that is where PMR is struggling at the moment. All right. Stutter. Still there. Not Google. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Let's just restart. Let's just restart that. Oh. So what's funny is that the graphics aren't necessarily better, they're clearer. And I know that might sound like just a defense of PMR, but if you drive around slowly and look at everything, from a detail standpoint, the graphics are actually far superior in PMR. The problem is, it's like you're looking at everything through a dirty lens. So everything's muted, everything's foggy, it's hazy, it's very strange. Now they could be doing that for the sake of the realism, but in my opinion, it's a disservice because most people, as much as they say they want realism, they don't. They really, truly don't. It is definitely a lot crisper looking, but that's like the filter I'm telling you about with like PMR, where it's like you're looking at everything through a dirty lens. The graphics are there. It's like if they removed some of that filtering or whatever it is that they're doing to create that sort of visual hue that mutes everything, that does make it look more realistic, then people will like it better. It might even generate more frames too. But it's like it's a post-processing that you can't turn. This car is so much slidier, it's not even funny. But that's AMS2 right there. And that's with stability control on in this game right now. I have it on because this car would be a nightmare without it. What I'll do is about halfway down this Nordschleife, I'll turn stability control off. Just to show you the difference. Yeah, this game is actually stuttering a lot more right now than PMR was. So, learn to drive. This game did also receive a patch yesterday, and I haven't really played it, so maybe it's possible the stuttering is all the games. But I really feel like at the very moment it is the PC. Because AMS2 is usually stutterless. This is a buttery smooth experience. And right now, well, that's not the case. After this carousel, I'm going to turn stability control off. Jesus. All right. Let's kill stability control. Which in this game is super overpowered. And now let's try driving this exact car. Mind you, PMR, what you just witnessed, does not have stability control. We're off to a great start. We already spun out. All right. Get back to it now. Jesus. So slidey. AMS2, man. Great game. You don't mind sliding, though. Oh. That's what I'm talking about. Stability control would have completely stopped that from happening. Even though I have forced TC on right now when this card obviously doesn't have it, it still doesn't stop that. This car is way, way, way harder to drive in this than it is in PMR. So the whole point I'm trying to show here is that if you think the cars are wrong in PMR, they're too difficult, they don't seem like they have the grip that they should have, they move around more than they should, well, AMS2, in my opinion, before PMR, was the poster child for Group C racing. And look how much harder it is to get this car down the road. Again, this is with forced TC on right now, which I can't, unless I click the checkbox and turn it off, I can't adjust it. As at least on PMR, if I force an assist on that the car doesn't have, I still have full range to adjust it more aggressively or turn it off. Which is why, for PMR, I leave the assist forced on, because it just gives me the option to run them or not. And in a ranked race or an authentic race, they're off by default anyway, so you might as well just leave them on. But anyway, right there. There are some cars in this game that are so unbalanced that you need to run stability control. I don't like having stability, because some cars, it makes the game a lot worse. The cars feel very wishy-washy and stuff, whereas this car here, if you want to get down the road, you really just need to have stability control on, or drive it like a sissy. But anyway, that's the driving between the Sabre C9 on both PMR and on AMS2 on the Nordschleife. Which one do you think drives better? Me personally, it's no questions asked, PMR drives a lot better. It also sounds better. You could argue the visuals are better in AMS2, but I think that is something that will clear up in time on PMR. But for now, when it comes to driving these cars, the complaints about Group C, I would argue are more on the hardware side for them than the actual software side of the way the cars are programmed. Because PMR is far superior to AMS2's Sabre C9 experience. That's all. I don't know what you're trying to say, or when I said forced TC, maybe the words came out differently, but forcing TC on doesn't make it harder to drive. The forcing stability control on makes cars weirder to drive because it sloshes them around a lot. The car is essentially trying to save itself all the time, so it's intrusive, making the car harder to drive. Not TC, that's stability control. All right, I'm trying to think. AMS2 is my go-to lack of stuttery experience. So I'm kind of... It did have an update yesterday, though. And I haven't played it since, so maybe the update could have done it. But either way, we're getting some stutters here that I don't know why they're happening. Anyway, let's jump back over to PMR, since that's what we're talking about here. Why wouldn't I drive them just the way they are intended? Because it's me playing the game and it's my choice. That's the ultimate answer. And as far as intention, what if the option's there to drive it either way, what is the intention? Sounds like the intention is to drive it however you want. So that's what I recommend. If you want to drive it without TC on, drive it without TC on. It's really that simple. I'm going to do what I want, you should do what you want. Freedom of choice, my friends. Freedom of choice. All right. So let's see. Let's jump in I think this class isn't too bad. Some of the cars drive better than others. I think GTE is probably the worst class when it comes to the lift-off oversteer issue. Every car seems to do it. GT3, they're all pretty solid. They need to do some balancing, but they all drive good. Like the Aston Martin. Overall, it's pretty slow. Drives great, but it's just slow. What isn't an argument? I don't know what you're trying to say. If the car in PMR drives better with less assists on than the car in AMS2 with more assists on, doesn't that help my argument that the car in PMR drives better, period? Because if I drove them the exact same assists, essentially all off, the PMR car drives that much better. That's the point I'm trying to make. PMR does not have stability control, and I drove the car without crashing the entire lap. In AMS2, with stability control on, it was better, but it wasn't as clean as PMR. As soon as I turned off stability control, I crashed 3 or 4 times, driving the exact same car on the exact same track. Therefore, PMR being the easier car to drive. That is my point. AMS2, the car is way harder to drive. But the point is that I've heard lately a lot people saying Group C and PMR, the cars don't drive right, they're too difficult, you can't control them. And I, before PMR, would hold AMS2 as the poster child for Group C. But since PMR came out, I think Group C has been elevated even more. I think it's even better in PMR. But people are saying it's not good in PMR. That's the point I'm trying to make. That the previous best Group C racing game isn't as good as PMR. All right, so let's review some different cars. Oh, by the way, these are some of the mod cars. The V8 Mazda, which, whatever. It's okay, it's cool, it's a mod car. The F1 GT4s, yep, they're mod cars. But, anyway. All right, so when I stopped on Monday, I know I did GT3s. I don't remember if I did the trophy car or the cup car. I think I want to jump into the GTOs right now. The GTOs are a blast to drive. They're hard to drive, but they are a blast. Let's see. Pulling my live stream back up here. All right. The moment I think the most fun car to drive is the 992 Cup car. It's way faster than the tires can handle, so it sort of bunny hops Yeah, I do. I will say I did drive it a little bit. At least on the Nordschleife, it also seems like it has a little bit of liftoff oversteer, but it also seems like it's intended to be that way because, like, in general, the car is just sort of like aggressive and harder to drive. Whereas the GTEs, you can't predict the oversteer; it just happens out of nowhere. Whereas they drive exactly like the GT3 cars, except the GT3 cars all drive fine. They don't do it. Maybe the Porsche does. The Porsche GT3 car is problematic, but maybe they're trying to tell you not to drive the Porsches. So my favorite of this class is the Cougar. This car is probably the best one, but I think the Cougar is the most fun, and the Z28's a close second. We'll start with the Cougar because I like this car, and let's race it on a track like, let's go Red Bull Ring. But it's nice to see someone public having my mod installed and not calling it the most stupid thing in the world. Which one is that? Which is your mod? I just want to know which one not to call stupid. I don't do much with the mods, I'll be honest with you. I just have them installed, I tried them out. I look forward to seeing more modding, but I look forward for the game. The GT4 F1 pack? Gotcha. I look forward to more modding once the game itself is more dialed in, because it really needs that first. It's hard to justify modding a game that you don't know is going to be around, you know? Alright, so I got hards. Max rear downforce because, duh. And what I'm saying about PMR, though, what I like about its philosophy on forcing on assists, where in AMS2, if you force the assists on, you can't turn them off. You have to go back in the menu and make it authentic. Whereas in this, you can run it authentic and the car will just default to whatever it came with. But if you force it on, as you can see here, TC and ABS have numbers. However, I have full control to disable them. So for me, it doesn't make sense to run it in an authentic state. Run it with it forced on, because now you have control to turn it on or off if you want, you know, on the fly. So we're going to turn it off, although I'm going to bump ABS to 1 right now. Nope, TC 1 off. ABS to 1, just to give me a little bit extra stopping power. But these cars are a lot of fun because of tire spin. What do you have planned for other mods? Anything? You know, let me see something here. I want to see if if there's any built-in haze that goes away if I like switched over to like winter. Because let's face it, there's going to be less humidity in the wintertime. Ultimately, less water in the air. So I'm curious if that translates into the visuals. And if you want, I can, since you're in the chat, I'll jump in some of the F1 car stuff. Try it out. I'll be lying if I said I spent any real time with it. Oh, Jesus, H. Yeah, so you see the haze that's in the background there? Right? You see how it's like clearer near me, but farther away, it's hazy? That's what makes a lot of the other sims also look a lot better, is they don't have any of that haze. That haze is realistic. That's exactly how a skyline essentially would look. The further away it gets, the more hazy it gets. But a lot of the sims make that all clear all the way back. So you go, oh my god, this game looks so much better. But look over to my side here. Look at the stands. Look how clear that is. Now imagine that clarity all the way down to the horizon. doing here? There we go. Oh, hold on. Forgot to turn TC off. There we go. That's why. TC off in these cars is, like, rewarding. You might be a little slower, but they are a lot more fun. Let's do a clutch kick. I'm talking about. GTO class is fun. Alright, I gotta be more aggressive. It's actually got more grip than I thought it was gonna have. I was trying to drift it sideways there, but apparently I need to be more aggressive. This is where these cars, by the way, are some of the most fun you're gonna have in this game. Driving them like assholes. Kicking them sideways. Oh, too much speed. Second gear was too low. Too much, too much. Ah, too much. If this game added like a, it'd be fun if they added some drifting. I know, it's totally not at all what, you know, IMSA and all that stuff is, but still. I'm not talking any immediate future either, by the way. Obviously, that is just an I thought. Oh. It's been a while since I've driven one of these cars. I forgot how fun they are. Oh, that was on my list. That's number 4. Actually, that might even be number 3. I forgot to mention that. The impact physics. It's more noticeable when you're playing with other cars. Because obviously walls are not moving. But the impact physics need to be dulled down and be less bouncy and more crunchy. In my opinion, iRacing and Race Room have really good impact physics. iRacing just has bad tire physics, so the second you make an impact, your tires lose all grip and then you crash. But the actual physical impacts are actually really good in iRacing. I don't like it in AMS2. It's the polar opposite of PMR. So in PMR, it's bumper cars. It's like every car has flubber around it. In AMS2, It's the cars are like glue. The cars get stuck together. So if let's say someone's on my left right now and I bump into them and I get stuck on them, I'll be turning right and the cars will not separate. I'm just driving it like an idiot right now. It's intentional. Yeah, this game is doing far less stuttering. Like, AMS2 was bad. I have to wonder if it's actually the AMS2 patch that did it. Because this game does have stuttering from time to time, and that's what it feels like still is. But AMS2 has always been buttery smooth. And right now, it's got some stutters. Alright. You get the idea with this car. The car is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So the GTO class in general is... I really got to start using it more. It's really a fun class. This is the fan favorite. The Audi. Group 5... possibly one of my favorite, if not the favorite. Group C is my favorite, but I want to say this is probably my second favorite. This class, I test drove the cars, but I haven't in a minute. So... I think I'm going to do that. But for the sake of a buddy in chat here, I'm going to jump into his cars. What's your favorite one, Eagles? Your favorite of the mods of these? I've only driven the Mustang, I think, one time very, very, very briefly. And then I had to get off. You let me know in chat. I'm going to use the little boy's room, take a pit stop again. All right, so I want to give Eagles Mod a fair shake, so I'm going to do this the right way. Get rid of the round wheel. Go to the track wheel. At the moment, I have a championship mod on the testing list. It's going to be a day and night 12-track championship with a random-ish weather. And it's going to be for all classes in the game, plus DLC classes. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I have a lot of mental promise for this game in the future. I really do. I don't care what... My whole thing is I don't listen to other people. I don't care. I play the game. I talk to the devs. And that's about it. That's my judgment. All right, so let's see. What cars do we have here? We've got... We're going to put coast ramp to 30. Got it. All right, so if that's the case, I'm going to do this. First, we're going to drive the standard car. By the way, I don't like GT4 cars, so this is going to be a test here. Do Donington. Donington is slowly becoming one of my favorites. All right, so we're going to be testing the GT4 before and after the Eagles, as I'm going to call it, F1 mod. And that is essentially taking all of the GT4 cars in PMR and turning them into F1 cars. Or at least F1 engines. So let's do a solid back and forth comparison here. So let's see. Let's go Soft tires, max wing, ramp down to 30, coast, back, drive. We're going to do the same thing to the F1 car variant. Oof. You can tell I'm not used to GT4 cars. Need a little bit more braking room. Man, I do not drive the GT4s. Never been a fan of GT4s personally. They're just too... this. They're too this. It's like take boring GT3 cars, add some weight to them, make the suspension softer, make the brakes smaller, and take some power away from them. We're going to do 2 laps each. Want to get at least 1 lap in that's remotely clean. Alright. Smooth, not fast, but it is smoother. Haven't gone off the track yet. Alright. Whoop, whoop. Alright, so we posted a 138.2. Now we're going to get out of this car and we're going to get in the F1 variant of it. Alright, GT4 F1. Back in the same Mustang. Same track, same everything. 138.2 is the time to beat. Vehicle setup. Soft tires. Max rear wing. Go max front. If we can do max front too, great. It's part of the mod. It's not there in the other one, so as far as I'm concerned, that's an honest test. Turn coast ramp back to 30. Alright, let's drive her out. F1 variant. Here we go. Well, it sounds a lot better. Oh, that's a good sign. That might mean we're going a little faster. All right. Well, this lap doesn't count anyway, so let's get our gremlins out now. All right, let's see if we learned enough in that one lap to pull off a somewhat faster than 138 time. All right, so stay in third right there. Got it. Don't go in a second. All right, so we're going to have to brake a little earlier here. And we screwed it last turn. Well, we got to do another lap then. That's all that means. Yeah, we technically beat the time, though. All right, so we went 134.9. So we went from 138.2 to 134.9 with a little bit of practice. We need a lot of work, but they're definitely a very different car to drive with the F1 engine. I like them better, so good job on the mod. And it also makes the extremely, excruciatingly boring GT4 class. If you like GT4, my condolences. But it definitely adds a different dynamic to it that makes it a lot more interesting. So, good job on the mod. I like it. Now let's try, for the sake of shenanigans, just turn TC off, because I notice this thing is sitting on TC. Haha. I actually think it might even be more fun with TC off. Yeah, it definitely makes the GT4 class different. Like, as in different from just being a more boring version of GT3. Oh yeah, tires are cooked now. Not a whole lot of grip. I would say, based off what I was seeing around the track with the tire temps, it's probably better to go medium with this motor. Just because it, let's see. What am I doing? Restart. Vehicle setup, tires. Let's go mediums. See how it drives with mediums. I like it better with mediums. Oh, I'm totally overshot that. Can you do me... Is it possible, Eagles, to mod in better brakes? Because this thing has... It has nothing to do with the motor. It has awful braking. We need at least twice the stopping power if we want this engine in it for horsepower. All right, you get the idea. All right. So I like those. Those are fun. Those are definitely more fun than the standard class, that's for sure. I hate GT4s. They're just boring. They're just so boring. Sorry if you like them. All right. Let's take these cars for a ride on... we'll do Spa. Let's go back to our good buddy Spa. I have the least amount of time with these cars. I think I drove each car one time. I just can't enjoy GT4. If I'm going to drive a slow car, I'm going to drive a slow car. Like the MX-5 or something like that. GT4s are just so boring. Alright, let's see what we got for tires. So hards is what I was expecting. No wing angle. Man, you got nothing on these things. Just get in and drive them. Alright. Ask and you shall receive. This makes me feel like Speed Racer. Bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Now, if you want to drive a class that feels like a boat, This feels like a boat. They got good grip, all things considered, though. Like, TC's off, and it's just grip. They don't have much lateral grip, though. I'll say that. Aww. Anybody complaining about Group C needs to drive this car. If you drive this car and you get good at it, you'll get in a Group C car and think it's an F1 car. I can't even stay in the track limits on that part of the turn. Jesus. I don't mind the sun reflection, to be honest with you. That's actually not a visual that bothers me. It might bother you from like a being in your way type for sim racing, but from it like looking good and realistic, I think it looks really good. But I can see why it would bother you in the aspect of racing, though. The reality is that I understand why the frame rate is as low as it is for this game. There's a lot of things baked into the game that I guarantee you are robbing a lot of frames for the sake of visuals. I have no idea how to make the Eau Rouge in this car. Not even close. It's a good tractor, though. Man, this thing is hard to drive. It's fun. It makes cool sounds. I do like the grip that it's got, at least in the way it sort of drives itself. But it's so laterally just sloggy that, I don't know. Maybe on the right track, but I feel like with the way that feels, I would rather just drive a GTO or a Group C car. NGTs. I don't have a lot of time on NGTs. I'm going to try out an NGT. One zone fantasy is pretty much the limit. I would make the car stop at least twice as good. Just to like... Because in my opinion, whenever you add horsepower and acceleration to something, you have to increase its braking too, or else it just becomes kind of like what that 70 sports car is, that whatever that was, that Porsche 917 or whatever. It's just so hard to drive that it loses a lot of its, flair. And I could get over the handling because I actually kind of like the drifting sort of mechanics of it. in the F1, but it needs to stop. That's my only complaint, is that you need to be able to utilize some of the braking zones better, because they don't stop with less power with the stock engine. So adding more power just makes the distance that you need for stopping that much more. Yeah, anytime you got an update or something like that you want me to test, and I'll do it publicly, I don't care, or I'll test it first off stream to dial it in, and then if you want me to show it off, I got no problem doing that. It's one of those scenarios where it's like, help me help you. It gives me content to use, and it gives you the ability to show off your creation, you know? Whoa! I'm excited for the next patch. I will be more excited if the patch does less for me and more for other people, because I am not, like, the target problematic audience right now. Yeah, there's a lot of visual bugs and stuff that annoy me, but none of it truly affects the gameplay. The only thing that affects gameplay is the disconnects on the internet. That's the worst thing. It just kills any momentum the game might have. Visual bugs I can deal with, at least for now. You know, long term they need to get polished out, but again, they're not game breaking. They're just visual nuisances. The flickering, the pop-in, occasional artifacting, a lot of blurring that happens in like replays and just in general movement. There's lots of things like that, but I don't think any of that stuff should take priority. Slowly tweak it a little with each patch, but nothing crazy. The focus needs to be making sure everybody can play together without problems. That's what's going to make or break the game. Well, it's got good grip. I couldn't throw it sideways. This is actually more my go-to view if I wanted, you know, if I didn't care about what the stream looked like and I only cared about my driving performance. Ideally, hood cam is what I like the best. This car doesn't rev for shit. It's all done at like 6,200. Eagles, are you in my Discord by chance? Because that would be the best way to reach me. for all game-related stuff. All right, let's move on. That car's pretty good. No complaints. I see why people like the NGTs. I'm going to try this one more time, real quick. This BMW. I did not like the way this car drove last time I drove it. But I don't remember what patch that was on either. Yeah. Alright, let's see if we can drive this car any better this time around. Hold the phone. Eagles. Approve. Welcome to the shit show. Definitely drives better than I remember. Last time I drove this car, it's pretty bad. It still has weird force feedback. I think that was my biggest complaint. Wheel is very, like, notchy and shaky with this car. And it was very specific to this car. So as a reminder, I will be streaming this later tonight again, doing open lobbies. And then hopefully, the next time I stream the game, we'll have a patch. Hopefully. Whoop! Got greedy. Overall, the car's not bad, but I don't. The force feedback is very strange in that. All right. Let's see. Spent very little time with the cup car, the old one. Let's do Mouse Sport. No. Yeah. 225 Racing. Sounds good, sir. Look forward to having you. All right, so... All right, hards it is. Yeah. This is a slower, sloppier version of the MX-5, honestly. Or it's the same. It's probably a little faster, but it's sloppier, so... You get the idea. I could drive it better, but I'll be honest with you, I don't feel like it. I want to drive like the cars with character. All right, let's get in the group 5. All right. One of my favorite cars to drive in this game. I'm on wets? When did I do that? We don't want that. Big stutter. I still think there's something going on with my computer. I'll have to revisit this when I'm not streaming. Oh! Forgot I got TC off. Let's go TC1. I want to make this more fun. Put some AI on the grid. Ah. All right. Fun race time. Oh, shoot. I didn't turn the AI up, I don't think. Yeah, they're on, like, 20. I'll get this race right sooner or later, folks. I promise. Ugh. All right. One more time. Carol, I need to go up to 100%. Oh, the audio for impacts is funny. Right back in last, just like that. I gotta figure out this. I'm probably gonna shut the stream down a little sooner, just because I want to figure out what this stuttering is. It's starting to annoy me. All right. I've had enough. Ugh. Yeah, I'm going to call it a little early today simply because I want to figure out what the stuttering is. It's kind of starting to, like, I'm focusing on it now, and it's driving me kind of nuts. So for now, I'm gonna shut the stream down a little early today. So about 2.5 hours we got in today. Not bad either way. And then we'll be back on later tonight, and probably about 8:30 or so. We'll start a little earlier. Like I said, this week is a little bit different of a schedule, but next week I'll return more to my normal 11 and 11, and that'll be that. But for now, folks, all right, I'm gonna call it. I'll be back tonight. I'll announce the time. I'll have the stream back up, and we'll do some open lobbies again. We'll get in a little earlier, and we'll run it all night. So anyway, folks, thanks for being here. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the subs. And I'll see you later this evening. Have a good one.